Welcome to the next installment of my video lecture series on microtheory. And in this particular edition, I'm taking a look at perfect competition. In particular, the notion that the world market sets the price and firms take that price. So world market set the price, that gets determined in the world marketplace, and the firm faces that particular price when making their decisions. So if you take a look here, I have that representation here, world market and the firm market. Also, you might want to take a look at this particular graphic right here. This represents the long-run equilibrium in a perfectly competitive marketplace. It's where marginal cost equals average total cost equals price equals marginal revenue. It's important, something we'll be using later on in the course, or actually later on in this actual video. So you might want to keep this in your mind. So again, we have that world market. We have a downward sloping demand curve, an upward sloping supply curve, and the equilibrium price and quantity get set where they intersect one another. Make sure you have a notion of what a perfectly competitive marketplace. The two main assumptions that I want you to remember are the fact that there are many buyers and sellers, that it's a homogeneous product, and the fact, make sure you keep in your head that they have no discretion over pricing. The world market sets the price, and that's the price that they face. So in this particular market, there's a couple of decisions to make. Whether or not to produce. If you're already in the market, do you continue producing? Do you shut down in the short run, etc.? Or if you're an entrepreneur, do I enter in this marketplace? So if you've entered the marketplace and or you've decided that you are going to sit this out and shut down in the short run, all right? So once you decide to produce, the question is, well, how much am I going to produce? And the main thing you remember is that the transfer of that price in the world marketplace as a condition into the market individual firms face in perfect competition. Here we have that graph that I talked about previously, but here we have, as always, our U-shaped average total cost curve, our J-shaped marginal cost curve. Marginal cost intersects at the minimum of the average total cost curve, and profit maximization occurs where marginal cost intersects marginal revenue. So that gives us our profit maximizing output level, and it also gives us average total cost. We go straight down until we hit average total cost and go across, and that gives us average total cost. So if we're talking about profit maximization, we need to know what is total revenue and what is total cost. Total revenue is just P times Q. I have P and Q right there. So I can calculate the total revenue for this particular firm under this situation, and we have this large blue rectangle here for total revenue. Now we need to calculate total cost. Total cost is just average total cost multiplied by Q. So we have average total cost and we have Q. We multiply those together and we get the red at the bottom, and the blue flashing area is the economic profit that this firm is actually making. So what's going to happen? Most firms in this market are making an economic profit. Well, that information will flow back into the world market, that this information about economic profit, in particular this information about the positive economic profits in this particular marketplace, is going to act as an incentive for entry. Entrepreneurs will seek those markets out because they can get a higher rate of return than the existing investments that they already have. So how is this going to impact the market? Well, as you see that zero dropping in there, we have S0. And if you have an S0, you know for certain that an S1 is probably following along very shortly. Probably right after I click, there it is. That is the new supply curve. The supply curve shifts to the right. So we have a rightward shift of the supply curve. What is causing this? The entry into the marketplace, caused by entrepreneurs seeking out higher rates of return than they're already receiving. So what's the impact of this shifting? We have a new world price 1. That's a decrease from the original price. And we also have a new equilibrium quantity, world quantity 1. So what occurs here? With the shifting of the supply curve, we see the equilibrium price fall and the equilibrium quantity increase. So now what is going to happen? That price decrease is going to flow back into the market that individual firms face. So here is our original situation. This is the original economic profits. I bring in that new world price that this firm accepts because it's a perfectly competitive marketplace. And what do we end up getting? These firms have a lower quantity. So, for example, if this was an existing firm in the marketplace, we end up seeing that the price that they are getting falls and the quantity that they sell is going to fall. Realize that even though the world market saw an increase in quantity, you have an increase in the number of suppliers. So in all likelihood, what will occur is that some existing firms will lose market share because of the entry that occurs. So as you can see, here is the original profits at the original world price, that flashing speckled blue, gray, whatever color that happens to be, is the original is the profit at the original world price. And the light blue section in the bottom here that's flashing, that's the profit at the new world price. So we've got a representation of the profits before the price decrease, before the entry that occurs, and then profits, the economic profits that are existing now. So if we just want to bring those two as the only pieces of information, we can see very obviously just from a graphical perspective, here's the original, the profits at the original world price, and here's the profits at the new world price. And we can see just from a graphic representation that economic profits have fallen. And these are just numbers that relate to the pixels that these take up. So I just wanted to put some actual numbers in here. So as the world price falls, we can see that the economic profits have decreased for these firms. So even though the economic profits are decreasing, firms are still making a positive economic profit. What does that mean? What do you think it means? If there's a positive economic profit, that information will flow back into the world market. Because of these positive economic profits, we are going to see entry into the marketplace. The supply curve will shift to the right, and we will have a new equilibrium price and quantity. So we have world price 2 and world quantity 2 as the equilibrium prices, the equilibrium price and the equilibrium quantity. So this entry just keeps shifting the supply curve outward. I think it'll be helpful if we take a look at each of these points, or we look at these, the shift from beginning to end of the equilibrium, just to give you a notion. So what occurs is when that original supply curve shifting from S0 to S1, we move to a new equilibrium. That new equilibrium still had economic profit, so we ended up with an additional shift in the supply curve. And we see the equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity increasing again because of that rightward shift of the supply curve. So you see here, iteratively, that what we see that each successive round of entry is lowering the price, and it is lowering it each time. As long as there's economic profits, there's going to be entry. So once we get to the point where there's zero economic profits, just like that graphic I showed you at the very beginning, if you take a look at that, you will see that total revenue and total cost for those firms are equal to one another. So there is zero economic profits. If there's no zero economic profits, there's no incentive for entry or exit. If there's no incentive for entry or exit, there's no feedback effect about the economic profits that are being made in that firm.